I haven't spoken to the president since I've been
So
in
the
this
trade
hearing.
representative hasn't spoken to the president of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have. I've
And
just
yet
been in the hearing with you, sir.
But yet he announced it on a tweet. WTF? Who's in charge?
This Democrat representative had a complete meltdown today as he found out that Trump had just raised the tariffs for China and decreased the tariffs for 75 plus countries.
Are you aware that the tariffs have been paused?
I am, yes.
When were you made aware of that?
Well, I understood the decision was made a few minutes ago. It's something
Sitting
that's
here-
been under discussion.
Sitting here, under discussion. So did you know that this was under discussion, and why did you not include that as part of your opening remarks?
So typically what I don't do is divulge the contents of my discussions with
What are the
president
details of the
Congress.
pause?
Well, my understanding is that because so many countries have decided not to retaliate, we're going to have about 90 days.
No, excuse me? China increased their tariffs on the United States. Trump blinked.
What's the blink, sir?
What do you know about this pause? What are the details of it?
Well, the details, as I understand it, is that China continues to retaliate. Other countries didn't retaliate. The president 2 or 3 days ago said we wanted to negotiate with those countries that asked for meetings. That's what we're doing.
What are the
We've had
details?
discussions.
How long is the pause? How many days? How many weeks?
I understand it's 90 days. I haven't spoken to the president since I've
So
been
the
in this
trade
hearing.
representative hasn't spoken to the president of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have. I've
And
just
yet
been in the
he's-
hearing with you, sir.
But yet he announced it on a tweet. WTF? Who's in charge?
The president of the United States is in charge.
WTF.
The president of the United States is in charge.
And what do you know about those details?
Well, as I mentioned,
It looks like your boss just pulled the rug out from under you and paused the tariffs, the taxes on the American people.
This is just typical catastrophizing and trying to make out like anyone and everything to do with Trump is just incompetent.
There's no strategy. You just found out 3 seconds ago sitting here. We saw you.
we've been discussing a
If
variety
you
of these
came
actions
here
for-
knowing that you were going to be turned off, that these tariffs were going to be turned off, why didn't you include that in your opening statement? Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Well, I don't disclose my conversations with the president, sir.
These were specific questions we asked you all along. What's the strategy? These are real consequences for the American people.
I don't know what he was expecting, like announce that Trump is going to call off the tariffs to the world before Trump has announced it to the world.
And small businesses. I had a group of small businesses in my office earlier today talking about the impacts of these tariffs on aluminum and steel. This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop.
I've never heard of this representative before, Representative Steven Horsford, but it just seems like he's doing the same old playbook of acting like everything is in chaos all the time. Fear-mongering, which to this day obviously is still working on people who are more emotionally susceptible to that kind of thing. And also for people who just don't really keep up to date properly with the news by researching for themselves. They're the people who will be victim to this kind of thing. But meanwhile, things are fairly calm over in the Trump camp at the moment.
Let's see what he says here.
Hello, everybody.
You got the market seeing your brilliance.
Yeah, that's up almost 7 points. 2,500 points. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's going to be a record. It's amazing.
Yeah. You make an announcement the next day.
It was good.
Yes, sir. Smart.
The key is we got to get the
All right.
Obviously, they're talking about the market recovering today. They added I think it was over $3.5 trillion to the stock market today. But we'll see how that goes, because I'm sure it's not going to be completely smooth sailing. They're aiming to make significant changes because people aren't happy with the economy. So of course, there's going to be some pain involved in that. But I really want to show you a video It's an interview from Scott Bessent recently that I think is really important to see if you haven't seen it already. This person shared this clip from Tucker Carlson, and they said the elite don't want tariffs because they want to keep their wealth. Americans want to be able to breathe more freely.
But do you think that the people who are hoping that yesterday's move will lead to a demonstrably brighter future within 4 years, is it your sincere prediction that within 4 years we'll say, actually, that kind of worked?
I believe that it's going to work. And I know that what we were doing wasn't working.
Yes.
So I think we have to try this. And I have a high confidence ratio it's going to work. I'm not happy with what's going on in the market today, but the distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities, 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills. They rent their homes, they have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
It just cuts to the heart of the issue. It cuts to the heart of why so many people voted for Trump. The economy just wasn't working for so many people. And the truth is that something big has to be done to make the changes necessary. And I think there's been a lot of thought put into this. I think that it's come from a very genuine place. There's a group of them in there who have, including Trump, who have very, very good intentions in what they're doing. He has this in his mind. He wants relief for the bottom 50% of wealth in America. And the stock market falling, that hurts mainly the elites. It hurts the oligarchs. Do you know what I mean? So the Democrats should be happy about that. And I'm seeing this kind of thinking mentioned over and over again. I saw it in another interview the other day.
It sounds like you're saying, trust us. And are you worried that at some point Americans are going to feel like there's a bunch of billionaires in Washington who are playing Russian roulette with our retirement?
$2 trillion deficits don't bother you at all. How could you ask me, while we're running a $2 trillion deficit, and not care? You're destroying the people who have run this country before, are destroying the future for my children and my children's children. I can't have a 50, 75. We have a $36 trillion deficit. And we used to run deficits of $400 billion. Now $2 trillion, everybody's like, who cares? I tell you what, who cares? Donald Trump cares. And when we balance the budget, you know what that means? That means our deficits stop. Interest rates come smashing down. His goal is to have external revenue. You know, the way I think about it, we all are so used to paying taxes. We're so used to it. We have like Stockholm syndrome.
They are thinking about the same things that we are. It's funny because I had a conversation with my dad today, and he was saying, oh, you know, maybe what Trump is doing is dangerous. And I said, what was dangerous was what the last administration was doing. They were driving the economy straight for the fires. It was so, they were propping up a false economy that made people feel good, that benefited the elites and benefited the wealthy. It created the wealth divide was just getting bigger and bigger. That's what was dangerous. And nothing that Trump is doing is as dangerous as what the last administration was doing. But they've done so much harm, and that's going to take time. And it's going to take a bit of pain to get out of that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens as this progresses and as the Trump administration kind of evolves with how things play out. So let's see what Ed Dowd had to say about this kind of false economy and bubble that I'm talking about.
The stock market that Trump inherited was at all-time valuations. It was a joke. It was a joke stock market driven by 7 stocks. We wrote in January and then subsequently in a free news piece on our website about stock market valuations versus bonds. And statistically, all you had to do was look at the valuations and the risk-adjusted returns of bonds versus stocks, and you were going to lose money over the next 10 years if you bought at the top. And a lot of people did. And so now this is what we have. We have a lot of confusion, people in our camp losing their minds. I guess their 401k came down, especially these young people screaming about their 401k. You can't touch it for 20 years anyways. So this is just a much ado about nothing. And I said this on Steve Bannon's show on Friday afternoon, the exact thing I'm telling you. Scott Besson, who I don't know, I don't talk to, said exactly the same thing, that the AI bubble burst and that the stock market was already coming down. There were margin calls coming. This just accelerated it. And now we're going to get a relief rally. Unfortunately, Trump inherited a fraudulent economy that was propping up the housing market. We're going to get a housing recession. And ultimately, we think the stock market goes down 50% sometime, by the end of this year, early next. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing that can be done about it. It's endogenous to the economy. It was floated. The housing prices were floated by illegal aliens renting up and putting pressure on rents.
So yeah, don't forget that through the pain of this, through everything that's happening, the things that Trump is doing, it's only necessary because of the neglect of previous administrations. The economy had to be fixed and there needs to be more balance. And that's what this is an attempt to do. And I hope it'll be successful. But obviously at the same time, Elon Musk is working away trying to reduce government spending. Today, he found a $3 trillion black hole. Have a look at this.
$5 trillion in payments that are untraceable. The budget line is blank, and they're worried about your Bitcoin. 5 trillion, untraceable. No idea where it went and how it was spent. A $5 trillion blank check. Social Security sent out $72 billion in bad checks. Guess who resigned last night? The head of Social Security.
The levels of spending are just insane. Long term, you'd have to assume that the effects of the work they're doing are going to be so beneficial. I am really looking forward to seeing a few years down the line once the real results of this have started to set in. So that's just today's update. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about everything going on at the moment. How do you think it's all going? How do you think it's going to go? I also just wanted to say thank you to David. He signed up for a membership on my Buy Me a Coffee account, which is linked in my description on the videos. It's just a way of supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just do a shout out when someone signs up for a membership. So thank you so much, David. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time.